So, last time Rome built itself a Ponzi scheme. Conquer a province, steal its gold, pay the army, repeat. It worked for 200 years. That was the whole trap. By Hadrian's Wall, the silver coin was still mostly pure. An official held it up and called it a legitimate business. 300 senators nodded. He was almost telling the truth. But a Ponzi scheme that runs out of investors doesn't stop. It turns around and starts eating the old ones instead. For the next 350 years, Rome ate itself. And somehow, nobody noticed they were already bankrupt. Here is the question that should keep you up tonight. How does an empire go broke and not feel a thing? Picture an accountant swiping a dead coin, waiting for it to clear. The coin in his hand is the same con, just older. So let's follow the money all the way down. A Ponzi scheme is simple. You pay your old investors with new investors' money. It works beautifully, right up until the new investors stop showing up. Rome's investors were whole nations, conquered one after another for their gold. But there are only so many rich neighbors a person can rob. The army was the one customer Rome could never afford to disappoint. Miss one paycheck and the army stops protecting you and picks a new emperor. So an emperor short on cash had really only 3 bad options. Raise taxes and you get revolts. Conquer and there's nobody left worth conquering. So every desperate emperor reached quietly for the third door instead. Debasement was never a mistake. It was a deliberate, rational, repeated crime. With no new provinces, the gold simply stopped arriving. So the empire turned its hunger on the people it already had. Taxes climbed, and the silver in the coin kept quietly shrinking. Remember the trick. Melt the coin, add cheap copper, mint more. It is a tax nobody votes for and nobody can see. He just gets a little poorer every year and never knows why. The backup generator had quietly become the only engine left. And then the plague arrived to make a hard problem fatal. Meet Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher who got handed the bill. He wrote one of the wisest books ever written, and he still could not outthink the math. The plague killed maybe 10% of everyone alive. Fewer farmers, fewer soldiers, fewer taxpayers, all at once. There was no wise way out. There was only the auction. He sold the golden goblets. He sold the imperial silk. He even sold his own wife's jewelry off the block. The smartest man in the empire pawned the palace. And it still was not enough. So he debased the coin too. The silver slipped from 83 down to 75%. He died in a war tent, still doing his duty. His son raced home to spend his days as a gladiator. It started when soldiers came home from the east carrying something invisible. Within months, it had killed millions and emptied whole farming villages. Every farmer who died was a taxpayer the empire could no longer count on. Marcus believed in duty above everything, and duty handed him an empty vault. He wrote that you should not be disturbed by what you cannot control. But a treasury is exactly the kind of thing an emperor must control. So the wisest man in the empire held a yard sale in the forum. Ordinary Romans bid on golden plates that had fed emperors for breakfast. It raised real money. It was also, obviously, not remotely enough. The problem was never the emperor. The problem was baked into the machine. Change the emperor all you like. The machine grinds the same way. Then came Septimius Severus, who said the quiet part aloud. Enrich the soldiers, he said. Scorn everybody else. He raised army pay and cut the silver to fund it. Now the coin was barely half silver, halfway to nothing. His son Caracalla found an even cleverer way to skim. He made everyone a citizen, out of pure generosity, obviously. Now every new citizen owed the inheritance tax he wanted. He invented new taxpayers and new fake money in 1 year. Then the throne itself became a thing you could buy. 26 emperors in 50 years, most of them murdered. Each one had to buy the army the moment he grabbed power. And the only money he had was a coin worth almost nothing. Under Gallienus, the silver basically gave up entirely. They dipped copper coins in acid to fake a silver shine. The shine lasted about a week before the copper showed through. Merchants in Egypt just started refusing the coins outright, so the government ordered them to pretend the coins were fine. Down in the books, the silver hit 0.02%. They had removed almost all the silver and kept the stamp. And still, the official stood up and called it fine. "The coins are fine," he said. The coins were not fine. Even the mint workers were stealing from the fake money. Their boss was a man named, of all things, Felicissimus. His name meant most fortunate, which was getting ambitious. He was about to start the strangest war in Roman history. Caracalla framed it as a gift, citizenship for every free person alive. The historian who was there says it was really about the inheritance tax. Only citizens paid that tax. So he simply made everyone a citizen. His new double coin claimed to be worth 2, but held barely 1.5. Caracalla was not a genius. He was a middle manager with a knife. He massacred a city for mocking him, then died beside a road mid-P. After him, the throne became a 50-year-long bar fight. Pieces of the empire just broke off and ran themselves for a while. Through all of it, the mints just kept making the coins worse. It was the ancient version of chrome plating a rusted car and selling it new. Buyers caught on fast because the silver rubbed off in your purse. So the state did the only thing a desperate liar can do. It demanded belief. While the coins rotted, the empire itself had split into 3 rival pieces. In the east, a warrior queen named Zenobia had carved out her own empire. Then, one hard soldier emperor decided to drag the whole thing back together. In just 5 years, he beat down every rival and stitched the empire whole. They actually called him the restorer of the world. And he nearly was. But you cannot stitch a map back together and refill the coins by force. The soldiers who won his wars were still being paid in painted lead. By now, a soldier could test a coin and know in one bite it was fake. The entire money system was now a confidence trick with no confidence left. So Aurelian, ever the soldier, decided to march on his own corrupt mint. The Emperor Aurelian was a hard soldier who actually counted the silver. He found the mint had been stealing from coins already worth nothing. So Felicissimus did the only sensible thing. He started a war. The fighting spilled across the Celian hill right inside the capital. When the smoke cleared, around 7,000 soldiers lay dead. 7,000 men died fighting over coins that were worth nothing. They were doing exactly what the government had done for 2 centuries. The empire killed 7,000 of its own to protect a fraud. By now, the corruption was not a flaw in the system. It was the system. And back in the Senate, the official rose to give his usual speech. He opened his mouth to call it a legitimate business. And he stopped. He set the paperwork down. And he simply walked out of the room. The narrator lowers his monocle. The lie has become physically unsayable. Here is the part the coins never tell you about. The coins in a farmer's hand had stopped meaning anything at all. But the tax collector still walked up the road right on schedule. In Egypt, whole villages wrote the same quiet, devastating sentence. "We cannot pay," they wrote, "because there are too few of us left." The empire downgraded the demand. It never once made it 0. Eventually, a soldier named Diocletian seized the throne and tried to fix it. His big idea was to make rising prices illegal, by law. Over 1,000 products, each one capped, from wheat to a lion. And to enforce it, he made overcharging punishable by death. It failed instantly. Merchants just stopped bringing goods to market. You cannot order value into a coin that has none left. Diocletian, exhausted, quit the whole job to go grow cabbages. The man who could not fix money could at least grow a cabbage. Diocletian had one more fix, and this one outlived the empire by 1,000 years. To keep the taxes flowing, he chained the farmers to the soil itself. They could not leave, could not change masters, could not flee to a city. And the debt passed down. Their children inherited the chain. A writer named Lactantius watched the price law and described what it did. "Yet over trifles," he wrote, "and people brought nothing to market." More people died from the shortages than from the inflation it was meant to cure. The people did not even revolt. They just quietly stopped showing up. That, more than any battle, is how an economy actually dies. Not with a war, with a slow, quiet withdrawal of belief. 350 years of small lies were finally adding up. One more emperor would try to save it. He saved only the wealthy. Long before the end, the rich had quietly built themselves a separate world. The wealthy stopped trusting the state coin and started hoarding real gold. The poor were left holding the painted copper that nobody else wanted. Two Romes were forming, side by side, that barely used the same money. And into that split walked the last great fixer, with a coin of solid gold. The next great fixer was Constantine, and he actually made real money again. The gold solidus was so good it lasted 700 years. There was just one catch. An ordinary Roman would never hold one. The rich got gold. Everyone else still got the painted copper. He had not fixed the money. He had simply made two kinds. And the people at the bottom paid for all of it, as always. By now, they were chaining farmers to the land they worked. First, they made you a citizen so they could tax you more. Then they chained you there so the taxes could still be collected. The money had died, but the paperwork lived on without it. In 410, the Visigoths walked in and sacked Rome. And the end, when it came with no drama at all. A barbarian king deposed him and did not even bother to gloat. The empire did not fall with a bang. It just quietly stopped pretending. Last time, America funded its rise on debt. Rome funded it on conquest. Both of them ran on the same simple, doomed promise: more. So here is the strange, quiet truth this whole thing leaves behind. The coins, in the end, were not worth anything at all. But the tax collector still came. He always, always came. Empires do not collapse the day the money finally runs out. They collapse the day the people collecting it stop pretending. We even got the word salary from the salt that soldiers were paid. And in the end, with the coins dead, they went back to salt. This same machine shows up again and again across history, which leaves one last, slightly uncomfortable question hanging. Was the money ever really real, or just a promise we agreed on? But that is a story for another coin and another day. Anyway, see you next time.